Okay, this topic is that I'd like to cover is the nature of God, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I've listened to and heard many gurus, spiritual teachers, etc., doing the best they can to e- express, explain, define the nature of God, using the Vedas, scripture, etc., etc. And so, the one thing I wanted to clarify, I don't even know exactly how to put it in words, but they're defining God from a perspective that doesn't know. And so they're saying God is love, and truth defines God, blah, 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 blah. And they keep going that way. It's like, it's like you're trying to define a screwdriver. Well, it has a handle and it has a metal shaft, and they're and that's not the way. That's maybe that's a stepping stone. Maybe that's it's a progressional step in understanding it. I'm not entirely sure, but it isn't correct. And what I mean by that is you, when I say cannot, that's so determinative. I don't mean to say cannot, but you have it backwards when people try to define God. It's backwards, absolute 180 degrees out of backwards. Well, so what do I mean by that? So they're saying, for instance, well, truth is God, or love is God, etc., etc. But the problem with that is the seeker, the student, the person that's trying to learn and understand, what they're doing is they're fixating upon love. They're fixating upon what is the definition of truth. And once they get it in their mind, aha, now I know what truth is. Once they do that, now there's nothing wrong with doing that in this physical realm. I mean, because you have to do that to progress, to exist, to avoid pitfalls, to avoid mistakes, if you will. Philosophically speaking, though, when you apply that learning, so for instance, you go, okay, this is what truth is, or you go, okay, this is what love is, okay, this is what justice is. As I said, it's good to learn all these character traits or all these things, but never, 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 never apply it to God. Because once you do that, you have stopped your progression towards realizing God or towards understanding what God is. Herein lies the problem. For instance, you go, okay, this is what truth is. So you got it in your mind what truth is. And then you apply that as the nature of God. And then some point in your life, hoping and assuming it's this particular life that you're living right now, but in some future life, whatever, and the notion of truth is reborn with you. Just like in reincarnation, the notion of love is reborn with you. And if you're a terrible, hateful person, that terrible hatefulness is reborn with you, which is exemplified by 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds that play the piano like concert pianists or can play the violin or whatever. It's absurd to assume that these children can learn a talent or skill that typically requires a lifetime to master, and they're literally doing it in hours or days. Well, if you believe that that's possible, then this video and spirituality is not for you. You need to go back to the world of make-believe. So these things are reborn with you, and so you have the notion of truth, and then you apply it to God. Okay, well, this is what truth is. Aha, God has to be true. Well, the problem with that is then eventually truth is redefined, or love is redefined, or goodness is redefined, or justice is redefined in your reality. And then when that happens, all of a sudden, God is not God anymore, because God was supposed to conform to your understanding of what truth was, or God was supposed to conform to what your realization or understanding of what love is. And when you apply that to God, and and it turns out to be that love is not what you thought it was, well, automatically this so-called God that you created is no longer God. So if we flip it 180 degrees instead and go, well, everything is God. Now, I mean, we've all heard that. It just doesn't seem to register in the minds of most people. And that is, God is everything. So you go, okay, well, love is the definition of God. But if you switch it 180 degrees and go, God is the definition of love, rather than love is the definition of God, then you will start to have things correct. Now, by doing that, you have to surrender the notion that you know something or anything. And so consequently, you have to allow God to be God and recognize the obvious and where I'm going, that God is God. Brahman is Brahman. So whatever love is, it in our idea of what it is, it could be a constantly moving target. It could be a never really understood or defined concept if we switch things 180 degrees and instead go, God is God, Brahman is Brahman, the absolute is the absolute, whatever your concept of God is, the deity of everything is, whatever your concept of that is, it needs to be a free-floating concept in your spiritual awareness, so that, for instance, let's say for me personally, I would go, well, I love God with all my heart, mind, and strength and everything. Okay, well, what does that exactly mean? What that means is you surrender to God, and I don't even like that word, but you don't even know what you're surrendering to. You just leave it, you leave that blank space to allow God to teach you. Don't rely on any Vedas or books or ancient scriptures, or don't rely on any gurus or teachers or anything. Rely only on God, the highest, the absolute, Brahman. Allow God to define to you what God is, recognizing that whatever the description is is a temporary description because you're not God yet. And as Jesus explained, I and the Father are one. Well, what that can mean is at the end of the road, I'm using time and space to define something, but at the end of the road, at the end of your development, if the comparison being done by God, him, herself, or whatever, if the comparison is done, and in that comparison, you can say, well, there's no difference between them in regard to love, compassion, truth, honesty, fairness, judgment, all these definitions. Now, you could say, well, this God and this God comes with different rainbow effects, if you will. Well, one rainbow is not better than another rainbow. They're rainbows. But they're different sizes and different this, and so my point being is, just because you're one with God doesn't mean you are God. One with God means you're the same. So at some point along the path, at the end of the path, so to say, allowing you are the meaning the essence of you, the essence which is beyond even the spirit, which is a created entity of God, but beyond that to the essence which is emerges from the darkness of nothingness, so to say, but not nothing, but nothing that you can define. When that emerges and develops and develops and develops, that is the thing that defines you, and that thing is constantly developing. And if it happens to be, when I say it, that is the you or the me, when it is constantly striving to be one with God because it loves God, not because it appreciates the power of God, not because it appreciates justice or fairness or truth or anything of that nature. It just desires God because of love, and only because of love. Then that essence can develop to the nth degree and become one with God. That's not really a subject that is easily expressed this way. It's way more easily expressed, like Jesus said, whenever two or more are gathered in my name, I am there. Well, there's not two here, there's just me. And though I'm speaking into a camera, we can't have the one-on-one. That's why gurus are kind of necessary if you want to learn that kind of stuff, because there's one-on-one communication between two people. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good day.